Ladies and gentlemen, this is a pleasure and honor for me to present my talk at Brain and Biomedicine Conference at Government College University, Faisalabad. I'm grateful to the committee to invite me for this conference, and the title for my presentation is Environmental Effects on Fertility and Health of Future Generations. I want to share a story of an island in Canada. On this island, there are girls who are running the show. They are doing babysitting, they are doing everything, and the boys are lacking, and there are few boys born at this island. So the question is, what happened on this island? This island and Canada is a petrochemical area where there is petrochemical industry which produces a lot of chemical toxins, and the residents of that island, they are always trying to convince the government and go on strikes that this industry is killing their generations. Similar things happened in animal kingdom when estrogenic pollutant dicophol and DDT were spilled out in 1980s in Florida's Lake Apopka. The alligators in that lake, they were intersexes. The alligators were having both ovaries and testes and everything. The sex ratio changed drastically. Similar thing is happening and happened in UK. The sewer water was entering into the rivers and the fish became intersex. They were male and female both. Similar things, a sexual disruption is happening in the United States in the frogs. So the question is, why this sexual disruption is happening in the world? When we look at this, there are certain chemicals which are called the sex disruptors or endocrine disruptors. The most of them are the known ones are bisphenol, which is found in your plastic bottles and plastic stuff. The others are dioxins, DDT, phthalates, and hexachlorobenzazine, and many others are out there. So what these sex disruptors do, they interfere with cell signaling pathways that are important for fertility and reproduction, and they perturb the nuclear hormone signaling, and they inappropriately activate and inactivate the transcription factors, and they alter the hormone metabolism. These all sex disruptors change everything. And do you know that your general and reproductive health is decided even before your birth? That's true. When you are or someone is even in the form of a sperm and an egg, if the parents are exposed to bisphenol and phthalates, that will change the parents' gamete picture and they may get mutations at that level. And if a pregnant mother is exposed to DDT and other metabolites or other toxins, herself and her baby in the womb both will be exposed to these toxins, and they can cause certain mutations, cancers, and that is the decision point for your future health and for the future health of your baby. And in prenatal phase or prenatal age, you are again exposed to these chemicals, maybe through bisphenol, baby milk bottles, including bisphenol, your environment, your bedding and everything. And even in adolescence age, you are again a victim. So this cycle goes up to your adult life, even till death. There is a chance that will be exposed to all certain kind of chemicals which are very toxic to our general and our reproductive health. Unfortunately, if someone is affected and the gametes are affected, this cycle starts continuously. This goes with multiple generations on that, and this is a prime example for that. Vancloxolone is a fungicide. It's mostly used in grape industry, grape orchards where the grapes are grown. When the same fungicide was fed to the mice in vitro, the impact of that fungicide went up to 3 generations. And this generation, they showed effect on fertility, and this is epigenetic transgenerational action of endocrine disruptors. And they also affect male and female fertility equally. Now, how we get exposure to these toxins? If you look at this picture, you are very familiar with these things. It comes from your environment. It comes from your kitchen. It comes from your workplace. So no matter what, it's out there. You can get it through inhalation, through skin contact, or ingestion, anyway. And it can impact all organs of your body, or it can impact a specific organ in your body. Now, once these chemicals hit someone, they can impact at the level of gametes when someone is in form of a sperm and egg, or if someone is producing these gametes, they can impact at embryo level, they can impact at individual level or organism level, and then that organism will produce the gametes again. In this example, there are two kinds of mutations. One is called somatic cell mutation, the other is called germline mutation. In somatic cell mutation, if a mutation occurs in a specific cell, it becomes a specific organ-based mutation, and a specific organ like liver cancer, any other kind of cancer, brain cancer, that kind of mutation will lead to that kind of anomaly in the body. But those kind of organ-based impacts do not impact on the gametes. Whereas when the germline mutation occurs in the sperm, that impacts the embryo, and the whole body, whole person is impacted, and that person will also produce gametes, and those gametes will carry the same epigenetic effect or the same mutation burden to the next generation. Now, we all know that we are born with the combination of a sperm and egg, and a sperm is having 35.7 million megabytes of DNA in there. And within a single ejaculate, 1,500, I don't know the total, 15,875 terabyte data is transferred. This is the amount that is available in a single ejaculate. Now, there is data in their sperm, but if you look at similarly, you look at your cell phone, your computer, and your other gadgets, they are also having the same data, similar data on that in gigabytes or terabytes. Now, the question is how you protect them. That's your personal data. To save your personal data, you download some applications, spyware, malware that you want to save your data. You use Wi-Fi security passwords and everything. You use certain general cybersecurity issues. You stay away from phishing. You don't take those calls, or you try to save your cell phone or save your tablet or save your computer from theft of loss. So no one should go away with your data. Well, if Almighty provided so much data in a sperm, then certainly he gave the firewalls for that, so that data should be saved. The reason is that normal sperm chromatin is essential for paternal genetic transmission for the next generation. So if that data is compromised, the future generations are going to get compromised. So what happens for that sperm? I'm going to explain you that. This is a normal cell in your body. This is having nucleus in there where the chromosomes are there, and you have endoplasmic reticulum out there. And these chromosomes here are made by the DNA. DNA is looped around histones. These are like round blocks kind of thing. Then these the histones, the DNA is looped around them. then that is compacted, and after compaction, they make a loop, and that makes your solenoid loops, and that is your chromosome. This is the normal packing. Now imagine if a single cell is impacted by environmental toxins or chemical toxins. The cell is having cytoplasm around there. Once the cytoplasm is there, there are repair mechanisms that they can repair that damage in the DNA. Whereas in sperm cell is hardly 4 to 5 micron long. I'm talking about the head part, 2 to 3 micron wide, around that area. So we cannot put these histones in the sperm head. So what nature did to save that chromatin or save that DNA from any insult, that chromatin in the sperm head, the histones are replaced by two small proteins which are called protamines, protamine 1 and protamine 2, and the sperm chromatin makes donut-like structures, and they are then packed into the sperm head, which you can see in this phase here, in this slide. The DNA looped around the histones is here. Then histones are replaced by two transitory proteins, transitory protein 1 and transitory protein 2, and then they are replaced by protamine 1, protamine 2, and they make donut-like structures, and then they are highly compacted, and they are placed into the lower part of the sperm head. That's the way that DNA is saved from future generations. Now, if you look at a sperm now, the sperm is not having any cytoplasm. What that means for you, that the repair mechanisms are missing. So whatever the outcome of that spermatogenic action is, that's firm. If a sperm is produced without DNA damage, it will transfer DNA damage, or it may cause some mutations. Whereas when you look at the counterpart, which is a female gamete, we say it an oocyte or egg, it is having a zona pellucida and a boundary, and then it's called germinal vesicle. The DNA material is highly packed in here. But the good thing on an oocyte is that it is carrying a cytoplasm. So once the cytoplasm is there, we understand that the DNA damage repair mechanisms exist, but the ability of an oocyte, even after embryogenesis, is very limited to kind of repair the DNA damage if it occurs. I want to show you the sperm DNA damage. This is a normal patient. It's a medical student in this case. You are comparing blue versus green sperm. This is normal. A normal person under tunnel assay, which I used for this fluorescence, we used fluorescence to tag the breaks in DNA, and that fluorescence tags on the 3' free end of DNA. And if you look at the abnormal pattern, this is a sample from a patient who worked in a chemical industry, and he's having around 50% DNA damage. Every other sperm is green. So you can just have an idea from this slide how DNA damage is evaluated. There are 4 or 5 techniques out there, but I'm not going to talk about techniques. I just want to show you normal versus abnormal. So what happens? The egg cannot say no to a bad sperm, and egg cannot recognize a sperm with a good DNA or bad DNA. So once an egg is fertilized, no matter through natural intercourse or through assisted reproduction, once it's fertilized with a sperm with abnormal or damaged DNA, that will carry the DNA abnormalities to the embryo, and the embryo or the baby will have increased mutational load, which may end up in miscarriage. And if baby is born, that baby may have dominant genetic diseases or complex neurological conditions, cancer, metabolic diseases, and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes the embryos don't grow beyond that level. That is a good thing. On these first 2 embryos, these are day 3 embryos where they are 8-cell stage. These are beautiful embryos, and they can implant normally, and they can even become blastocysts. And these 2 embryos on my right side and under this arrow, they are both fragmented embryo, and they are produced from a patient who was having sperm DNA fragmentation in the cells, in their sperm. So they're fragmented and they have no chance to implant. But unfortunately, if they implant, then the outcomes are very bad. Now, what are the factors which cause this damage in the sperm? Well, there are two kind of factors. One is called biological factors, which may be paternal age, which may be the genetics, which may be medical condition, etc. And the others are lifestyle factors, smoking, exposure to environmental contaminants or toxin, they all part of that. So lifestyle changes, whatever you are exposed to in the environment. Now, there is common thing that advancing maternal age has been associated with chromosomal non-disjunction. The best age for a woman to be a mother is in late 20s and then early 30s. Once a female goes beyond age 35, she faces chromosomal non-disjunction in the eggs or the embryos, and that result in miscarriage and sometimes female infertility. We have thought that men produce sperm all the times. Maybe men have no limit on their fertility. This gentleman, Ramjeet from India, he became a father at the age 96. Many people take it as a credit. Many people think that's good thing, but that's not good thing. DNA damage is also associated with paternal age, and it has a major impact on the viability of the embryo and health of the offspring. So that biological clock is also clicking for the males too. And the best age for a male to become a father is before age 45. Once the data has to look at this slide, age-related decline in sperm DNA damage or something. I'm going to look on the parameters. This is the age, and I want to show you beyond 45, and I will stay below 30 due to the time limits. Patients below 30, they had 15% DNA damage plus minus 8. The patients above 32 years of age are having 32 to 17% DNA damage. And if you look at the cutoff value, that is 20%. Anybody under tunnel testing, if they are having more than 20% DNA damage, the chance for them to become pregnant are really poor. And the older men, this slide shows that the older men with 40 years of age, they carry a significant load of DNA fragmentation or DNA damage in their sperm. The scientific data shows that the kids born to the older parents, especially males with over 45 years of age, show ADHD and other conditions, even cleft palates. There are many conditions that you can find with the paternal age thing. Now, look at this slide here. On here, you under parameters, you see the age of the people of the individuals, and look at the mutation of 1138G, something greater than A. The mutation rate or aneuploidies in sperm increases with age. So what happens with these things is that the kids born to the older gentlemen, they mostly end up with Apert syndrome. This is a genetic disorder characterized by skeletal abnormalities. Achondroplasia is a disorder of bone growth that prevents the changing of cartilage. And that is a single change in letters of DNA code at FG or FR3 gene. And neurofibromatosis is a genetic disorder of the nervous system and causes tumors to grow on the nerves. This is some mutations on the chromosome 17 and chromosome 22. So these all things can happen with exposure to chemicals and pesticides, and our future generations can face these things. Now, this slide shows about Apert syndrome, achondroplasia, and neurofibromatosis. The human mutation rates for base substitutions is much higher in males than females, and it increases with paternal age. This effect is mainly, if not entirely, due to the large number of cell divisions in the male germline. We have to keep one physiological phenomena here in mind, that a female is born with a set number of eggs, and they stay in dictate stage, and they only get activated with the menses cycles after puberty. Whereas in a male, After puberty, these cells undergo mitotic changes all life. Due to these all divisions, cell divisions happening for mitosis, because under mitosis, the cells divide and one cell goes for meiosis to produce the sperm, and the other one goes and maintains the base stem cell line. So those mitotic changes throughout the life of a gentleman will produce meiotic errors, which is also a problem, which may also be a reason for all these anomalies which we see with the paternal age. As we said that there may be medical conditions which can produce DNA damage. This is a picture of an ejaculate for a man, and all these red things, these are neutrophils in the ejaculate. And this man got infected with them. These polymorphonucleosides, they produce reactive oxygen species which are detrimental for sperm. They damage the sperm cell bilipid membrane, and ultimately they damage the highly compacted DNA in the sperm. And you can see the donor here, very little damage, and you can see the patients with leukosplemia, with chlamydia infection, with testicular and with varicocele condition. They all had high number of neutrophils in their ejaculates. So the presence of neutrophils in the ejaculate or reproductive tract infections, they can all damage the sperm and create DNA fragmentation or damage. Now, varicocele is a condition where the pampiniform plexus in the testes are impacted. They carry out the thermoregulation of the testes, and around 19% of male population suffer from that, and 40% of them become subfertile, and around majority patients are having that on the left side of the testes, and sometimes it is found on the both sides of the testes. The classical picture for these patients is that instead of oval, we find tapered sperm, and we see increase in sperm DNA fragmentation. The other medical conditions which produce oxidative stress are type 1 or type 2 diabetes. In both cases, patients, you can see that there is patients with diabetes, they are having high DNA fragmentation in their sperm, which may be a reason for infertility for the future. Now, obesity is a major impact, and obese patients are having high DNA fragmentation. Look at normal, overweight, and obese. And on this graph, you can see the DNA fragmentation around 20%. In overweight and obese, it goes up to 30%. And I told you the cutoff is 20%. And normal people, they show less than 10%. So obesity is also a parameter or an anomaly which causes DNA fragmentation. The other ones is that our society, our communities are going through depression. There are not many reasons for depressions, but there are few treatments available for that. And paroxetine is one of that is given for the mental disorders. Though they help the patients, but over a period of time, all these kind of medications are having an adverse impact on patients' sperm quality. Look at the volume, concentration, everything. Over a period of time that they gave medications to these patients, after 1 month, you can see that the baseline sperm DNA damage was increased. And the patients who were taking SSRIs, their DNA damage was up to 30%. So keep in mind that medications are also having a negative impact on semen quality. They may produce some kind of anomalies for future children. Now, I spoke about the genetical, biochemical, biological factors. Let's talk about the environmental factors. If you look at the picture on the side, I'm bald, I never smoked, right? So smoking does not make men bald, but smoking is certainly having an impact. The chemical compound in a cigarette are like 7,357 compounds are found in a cigarette, and 70 of them are confirmed carcinogenic. They have carcinogenic activity. The other factors related with smoking are decreased sperm motility, low sperm count, increased abnormal morphology, impaired sperm function, and again increased sperm DNA damage. I will show you the data from my lab for the patients. This data shows the impact of smoking on chromatin integrity of human sperm. In non-smokers, the DNA damage was 7.8%. Again, I told you in normal people, it's around 10%. Look at smokers. It's almost 3 times higher, 25 plus minus Simon. So smoking is having an impact on fertility and the like reproductive and general health of the offsprings. And if a female is smoking, it impacts 3 generations at the same time. If a female smokes, first the mother is affected, then the baby in the womb is affected, and then the baby is carrying the gametes inside. So all future generations or third generation will be also affected by smoking of the mother. I want to tell you a story that in 2008, I was running in the gym and I found this magazine and I saw that they were talking in 2008, that was big thing, the chemicals within. In that magazine, I read about bisphenol, I read about phthalates, and I read about PDBEs, polyphenols. I picked this magazine with me, came to my lab, and I gave this project to one of my students as his master's project. So the chemical studies was studied were bisphenol A. You are all aware about that now. It's found in plastic bottles that you regularly use, tin cans that you use for food and processing, or sometimes you get tin food. It was part of CDs. It is in eyeglass lenses. It is in dental sealants. Bisphenol is a toxicant. The other that we study are phthalates used in personal care, plasticizer, PVCs to produce flexibility. This is found in toys, and this is found in all makeup stuff that you use, and this is also found in Golden Pearl cream and Pfizer beauty cream and in plastic curtains. It's all over. The third one is octaphenol, nanophenol, that are surfactants which are used in your detergents, maybe detergents used for washing of utensils. It's found in pesticide, lubricants, paints, and many other things. And even sometimes the sewerage is contaminated with that. No, Chinidu was my student who did his master's, and based on his research, he got a scholarship and went to Einstein Medical College, and he presented in San Francisco and was awarded a scholarship. And now he's a doctor in Florida somewhere and practices obstetrics and gynecology. One aspect of his master's thesis was DNA fragmentation assessment after exposure DNA fragmentation in sperm after exposure to these chemicals that he studied. We studied many other factors, but I'm talking about the DNA, which is going to be used for the future generation. If you look the control and you look to concentration of octaphenol, phthalic acid, and bisphenol, bisphenol was really, really toxic. And it induced DNA fragmentation within 4 hours of incubation. So bottom line, you can open up the web and you can read for hours about bisphenol. Bisphenol is commonly found in plastic bottles back home. And I have been giving talks on my every visit in Pakistan that stay away from plastics. And 92% of the Americans are carrying bisphenol in their bodies. We have to avoid from bisphenol. And bisphenol disrupts sperm development, and it's linked to declining male fertility, and it is now also kind of connected with the cancers and everything. Another time, one of my students came to me, he said, I need to do research, and he came up with me. I said, find out your topic, and he came up, should you drink Mountain Dew if you are trying to get pregnant? Or the other question is, does Mountain Dew, it's a drink. So you can see the ads in Pakistan, the dew. So there's the same Mountain Dew. Can it reduce sperm? Well, I said, this is your master's project. Go ahead and study. Along with other semen parameters, one of the parameters he studied was the DNA fragmentation. We incubated sperm for 0 and then up to 4 hours without anything. And you can see the DNA damage was less than 6% in these specimens. This is data from around 30 patients. Then we picked 3 colors: blue, yellow, which is found in Mountain Dew, and red color, which is found in candies. And we also studied the metabolites. These colors, once they enter into the body, they are converted into metabolites. Like yellow is converted into sulfonilic acid, and crestidine sulfonilic acid for the red dye. So we even studied their metabolites. And keep in mind that we incubated sperm, which is the highly compacted sperm in a cell in a human body. If within 4 hours they can get this much damage, just imagine how much damage an ordinary body cell will get. So Rivara is now an emergency. He also got scholarship and he got on his research, and he is now an emergency medicine doctor. So our data showed us that this Mountain Dew and other colors, which are used for foods and other things, they are toxic to human body. And imagine if you are in Pakistan, you are eating all mithais and sweets, and even in back home, instead of food colors, the chemical colors are used for these things. And look at the date, January 17th, 2025. The FDA, the government of United States, banned that red dye, that it should not be used in food colors. So bottom line is, you are not going to die from a food color, but this will aggravate if you are already having a chemical load in your body. So stay away from food colors. Now, our next generation, we are now seeing cell phones, and many people ask about that. Are cell phones having an impact? Well, I can tell you that one of my colleagues is a neuropathologist. He told me the policemen in the United States who hold the telephone on their left side, on autopsies, he found out that they were having more tumors on that side. And similarly, now cell phones, do they have an impact on sperm DNA damage? Well, the study was done, and around the people who use cell phones, they got a 50% reduction in their sperm counts, 28% kind of risk for developing gland tumors, and 34% decline in sperm viability. So what happens is, once you keep cell phone in your pocket close to the testes, they produce electromagnetic waves kind of things, which impact spermatogenesis, which results in lower sperm count, sperm motility, and they change morphology and also the sperm viability, and they also kind of ended up in increased DNA damage. This is the data outcome that I will not go into detail. You can see that with no use and with 4-hour use, you can see all different semen parameters, they were declined. So the young man back home, I would recommend that keep your cell phone away from this future region if you want to be fathers. Now, if you want to keep it there are good underwears available in the market that can protect you from radiation or something. Or you are sitting in Faisalabad, this may be a good business proposal to kind of create these underwears for the sale and become rich there. Now, another gadget, laptop, Wi-Fi, and sperm quality issue. Well, people think Wi-Fi is going to kill the sperm. Actually, that's not true. The reality is that most of the times we keep our laptops in our lap. That increases the testicular temperature. We sit like that, and that we need 2 to 3 degree lower temperature for spermatogenesis. With this way, we increase testicular temperature that results in poor semen parameters and even DNA fragmentation. There was a study done at Stony Brook where they put the electrodes on the testes, and then they put the laptops in the lab, and they measure the testicular temperature even without turning on the computers. and you can see an increase in testicular temperature. We don't need higher testicular temperature for spermatogenesis. So this is kind of a dangerous thing. Then they did another study published in Fertility and Sterility in 2012. What they did, they put the sperm in micro droplets under oil under a laptop, and they study the DNA damage in them. Look on this side. The DNA damage is less than 10%, and then DNA damage in doubled almost, like in samples which were kept. The same sample was divided into two, and the sample showed high DNA fragmentation in that. So now when you sit and use cell phones or tablets, take care for yourself and your future offspring. Now, new thing with emerging thing in Pakistan, in developing countries, is using jacuzzis and all that. Increasing testicular temperature and spending a lot of time in jacuzzis is going to negatively impact the male gametes. So wet heat is having an impact. And if you are already a person who is facing infertility, you should stay away from these kind of jacuzzis and everything. Look at the baseline for a patient who are having a man who are facing infertility, and when they told him, do not sit in jacuzzi, look how the semen parameters improved for that person. So these itty-bitty things in your life are having a big impact. Let's move to another issue here, which is now an issue in every single society over the world, and that is plastic. We are now exposing everybody, even from childhood, we are exposed to plastics in many ways. Cell phones, chairs, everything you name it is made of plastic. And millions of preterm births and thousands of infant deaths have been linked to plastic chemicals recently, and this is published on March 31st, 2026. It's very, very recent thing. What happens? You are having all plastic in your environment. Your phone, your like polyester clothes are having that, your environment is having that, you name it, it's there. And your all body organs can absorb these small plastic particles. They are even in your water. You can get them some skin contact. So no matter how they enter into your body, they can, if a female is pregnant, they can even cross the placenta and can impact the baby. So plastic, microplastics are out there. We throw them in the waters, then the same water is kind of pure for us, and then we drink it again. The same thing, animal species in these the water species, they also face the same dilemma. Now, recent studies showed that the microplastics were detected in human penis. Even microplastics were found in human testicles. So what that means for us? That means that once we get that microplastics through food, through inhalation, through dermal contact, they all end up somewhere in our reproductive organs. They end up in every reproductive organ. They have even ended up in, you will study in brains even. So once they end up in the testes, what they do, they create testicular toxicity, and that end up with reduced ATP production for sperm. They create inflammation for the testes. They create oxidative stress, and that oxidative stress leads to sperm DNA damage that shown here. And they also change the testosterone production from the Leydig cells in the testes. And ultimately, all these end up with male infertility. So you might be thinking until now that I'm talking about only about males. Well, the same phenomena happens for a female too. Recent study published in February 2025 found out microplastics in the follicular fluid. This is an ovary. Oh, and this is folliculogenesis, that an egg is activated and egg develops a surrounding structure around that, and this is a follicle, this is an oocyte inside. That follicular fluid is having all the growth material for the egg. So these microplastic things enter even into this microfluid here. And they evaluated 18 follicular fluid samples from females who were exposed to all these kind of chemicals, and they found out that microplastics were found in 14 of those samples, which is highly alarming and highly significant thing that we should understand. And infertility is increasing globally, and infertility is increasing in developing countries with an alarming rate. Now the Pakistanis who cannot really avoid another kind of disaster, which is smog. In wintry months, we will see a smog that you cannot even see your partner. It's so thick. And these are fine particulate matters which make up solid and liquid particles, variable in size, nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, and volatile organic compounds, all your vehicles and all those chingchis, they make up our air. And look at the size of this. This is your hair, which is 50 to 70 micron thick. These are beach sand particles, which are 90 micron. And we cannot see a seed kind of a sand particle with our own eyes. You can see it microscopically. They are so tiny. Now look at the particles you get through the air. They're less than 10 micron. And combustion particles which comes from your chingchis are even less than 2.5 micron. We inhale all of them all winter, and we end up sometimes in hospital with subtle effects, with impaired pulmonary function symptoms. We use medications, the physician office visits increases. Some older people, young kids end up in emergencies, and even some people who are having compromised immunity, they died in this weather due to pollution. And these carbon particles, this study shows that these carbon particles even can cross the fetal side of the placenta. They are so toxic. And look at where we stand in Asia's pollution problem. Here is India, here is Bangladesh, here is Pakistan, China, and all the developed countries are here. So I just want to show you this slide, our status in terms of air pollution, that we are exposed to that all the times. Now, going back to the same story I started with, that island in Canada, where boys are lost, more girls are there, a sex ratio changed. Conditions may not be different for our country because the river Indus, the Raza, is the second most plastic polluted river in the world. And everybody is our main source of life for our drinking water and fertilizer for our crops and everything. They are all contaminated, maybe directly or indirectly. We're all facing plastic things. Now, moving on to conclusions. Even very low doses of some biologically active contaminants can alter gene expression important for reproductive health, reproductive function. Exposure during fetal development can adversely affect health of the individual in adulthood, including reproductive health. Humans are exposed to complex mixtures of chemicals that can interact to cause increased effects. And people differ in susceptibility to exposure. Not identifying and studying susceptible subgroups can result in failure to detect even higher risk people. I know that there are few people in Pakistan who take care for everything, who take care for the environment, and who take care for themselves. But trust me, let's make a challenge at this conference that we all will try to give a better future to our generations. We'll take care for ourselves and we'll take care for our environment to give them a healthy environment so they can come up with a good health and their future offsprings can come up with a good health. I can end up with this recorded talk. This is first time I'm recording, If you come up with any questions, you can shoot me via email that you can get from Dr. Ghulam Hussain. And thank you very much for the opportunity.